Morning, guys. Hope you're well. Um, so, after the last film that I made, where I mentioned my first day sober, my first day where I went to AA and how everything fell into place, I was talking about the Joe and Charlie tapes, um, and the kind of epiphany type moment it had on me, because suddenly something was being explained that I'd never been able to understand in all my years of drinking. Um, just these two American guys, one of whom I always thought sounded a bit like Elvis. Um, Reading from the big book, what's known as the Big Book of AA, and explaining, step by step what it all means and how it all works, etc., etc. Now, so after I made the film, I went and I looked it up, because I haven't listened to these recordings for years and years now, and I figured, if it had an effect on me, or if it explained things to me a little bit better at the start of my sobriety, then hopefully it'll work, for you as well. So I just looked it up on YouTube, Joe and Charlie, and lo and behold, there they were, the same tapes. Now, the recording that I remember listening to, the one that really sort of stood out to me as an explanation of why we're addicts, or why we're alcoholics, is a recording called "The Doctor's Opinion," where a doctor at the time, one of the first AA um, people, members, founders, whatever, um, had he'd shown an interest in alcoholism or alcoholics, and he'd sort of worked out by um, studying us, why we are how we are. So I'll put a link in the film to that, in the sort of comments box, whatever, description. That's it, description. I'll put a link in the description to those recordings. Do listen to them, and if they help, then it's a good thing, right? The other thing I was going to talk about this morning quickly was, because I've got to go to work soon. The other thing I was going to talk about quickly was, why do AA suggest 90 meetings in 90 days? That's quite an intensive. It's quite an intensive sort of amount of meetings to get to, and immediately I know a lot of people will feel like, oh no, that's too much. It's pressure. Now, I can only go back to what I said in the last film about my first day. I wanted to do it. I was desperate to do it. I was desperate not to be that person anymore. So I was going to do anything it took to get to 90 meetings. And, it's that kind of mindset that I think carries you through. But it did sort of pose a question to me. I mean, common sense tells me why it's 90 meetings in 90 days. It's to really solidify and cement, what you're doing. But also it's to think of it like this. For however long you've been drinking, you've been battering your body and your mind left, right, and centre. You've been smashing it to pieces. So to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and to sit in an alcohol-free environment with people that are in the same situation as you, will it will give your body and your mind a chance to kind of recover. It will just give it time to decompress and for want of a better word, get his shit together. But also, you're going to build up networks of people that you connect, not connect with, that's the wrong word, identify with, you know, through maybe hearing their story, and maybe their story is similar to your story. There's something you identify with, or maybe you just, you know, just like them. They're nice people. Um, but it gives you that opportunity to show up every day and be in a place where you're all trying to be sober, or not trying to be sober, where you're all being sober. Um, that's that's another pretty good reason for the 90 and 90. Um, so I mean, I did do that. You know, I sort of strongly advocate that. I'm just going to look at my, because I wrote down a few notes here, um, to make sure that I'm sort of trying to, you know, because I've got a terrible, you know, it's not scripted, so I've got a terrible tendency to waffle. um, but yeah, the other thing is it establishes new routines and replaces old habits, which is absolutely vital to your recovery. Because if you do the same old things that you've always done, if you hang around with the same people in the same places, you're never going to get better, right? Because how can you? I remember the first meeting I ever went to. I was 16, and a fella called Bill took me there. Well, he said his name was Bill. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But it doesn't really matter. But he took me there. It was at Bexley Mental Hospital, um, and he took me to this meeting, and he explained to me quite simply, if you go to a hairdresser's enough times, you're going to get a haircut. Sooner or later, you're going to get a haircut. And you know, it's a very simple analogy, but it's absolutely spot on. You know, if you're in the pub every 5 minutes trying to do what you used to do, then sooner or later, certainly in the early stages, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. Um, there are also other elements to that I want to, mention, but I don't want to mention them right now. I want to save them for later down the line, because I've kind of written um, a list of films that I want to try and make to explain certain points about this from again, as always, from my perspective, in the hope that it helps somebody, um, or explains things to somebody who otherwise wouldn't find AA, or look for AA, um, or look to recover. Just one of the really fortunate things for me was, it sounds wrong to say fortunate, but it was fortunate for me, is that I had alcoholics in my family. And due to that, I certainly, one of them at the time had been in recovery for 20 years plus. And through that, I had an understanding of, or maybe a better understanding of how it worked and what was available, and how you could get better. Um, so, but a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have that. So I'm incredibly fortunate that I had that sort of support group or support network of quite intelligent people, who had been through, gone through, and come out the other side with sobriety, for a lengthy period of sobriety. So um, I've kind of lost my train of thought now, but yeah, like I say, I mean, hopefully, what I'm saying here is of use to somebody. It's not, as I've said a couple of times now, it's not, I don't have all the answers, right? Uh, I don't have. I'm not a kind of signed up um, expert on alcoholism or addiction, but what I am is an alcoholic. So as I've said, I can only tell you what happened for me, or what happened to me, and how I did it, and hope, really hope that somebody hears it and goes, do you know what, I'll give it a punt, you know, because, you know, I'm nothing special. I'm the same as everyone else. I'm just an average Joe, and and it kind of shows. It shows that, you know, anyone can do kind of a. I don't want to say anything. Anyone can do anything, but anyone can do this. Certainly, anyone can do this if they have the right things in place and the right attitude towards it going in. Anyway, so it was just a short one because, like I say, I'm about to go to work in a minute, and I um, wanted to connect with a couple of people at least, hopefully, um, early on. You know, start of the day, the most dangerous time, I suppose. Start of the day, because I kind of feel like my decisions on whether I was going to drink started early in the day. I woke up and I knew when I was going to drink, which was 9 times out of 10. It was most days, um, and it was only dependent on money, or, you know, whether I was sick or something, you know, or too sick to get out of bed, which quite often happened. Anyway, so look, as I said last time, if you feel ready, if you feel like you want to do it, try and get to a meeting today. If you can't get to a meeting, phone AA and speak to somebody down the phone. Oh, I was just overcome there. But you can do it, all right? You can do it. So I'll try and speak to you again soon. And in the meantime, you know, try not to have that first drink. Just don't have that first drink. All right? Have a good day. See you again.